All right, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm JustMoparJoe. Today is the big day. We are finishing up the 360 build. I've came out here 2 other days and thought I was going to get it built and realized that it was a once spray paint rebuild and I had to thoroughly scrub and clean every single piece and part before it went back home. I guess I've been spoiled as of late with my new stroker engines and stuff. When you have new parts, they go together a lot faster because they're mostly clean, mostly. So don't forget to check out Piggybank horsepower. That's what this is, our 360 build. Let me catch you back up where we left off. So this is the 360 block that we got. That was 3 different colors. I believe it was a factory crate engine. These are the KB pistons here. The block was finish honed by Mr. Rick Seaman. I got the rotating assembly put in. All that was balanced by Ed's machine. Crank was polished by Ed. And I finally got my heads back. I'm hiding them over here. Got them back, cleaned up, painted up. They're nice, ready to go on. Camshafts installed. I checked the degree on it at the end of the last video. So today I've got our new oil pump ready to go. I have went ahead and popped the cover off it, cleaned it out thoroughly. It is a Melling standard volume windage tray. I need to wipe it off one more time. Timing cover's ready, new seals in. The oil pan, you see the insides, got the factory black coating to it, so I will need to wipe her out one more time just to get the dust off. Rocker arms are all hand scrubbed and cleaned and inspected. They have just a little bit of surface rub there, nothing at all really. None of them are worn through on the edges, you'll see that. And I showed that in the old original 360 build series. The cam lift on this is not very extreme. I think it's 447, something like that, so much better than the stock, but it's not so crazy radical that the rockers are going to be in any kind of bind. So it's, well, like I said, well under 500. Let's see what else. I guess I'll start with the front cover. I had to track down an oil slinger, so I just slid it on. What I'd like to do, I got my balancer painted up outside. I need to bring it in, and we're going to double check the true zero on our timing cover before I get it bolted on, final bolted on. So let's go to work. I've got the balancer stuck on, centering up the actual seal itself. My bolts are just finger tight, and our mark is beautifully on zero. So that looks really nice. It's good to go. I left that on top dead center using my dial indicator before. So just to know that looks nice. I'm gonna pop the cover off, get it sealed up, and probably I'm leaving my water pump off for now. I got a thin layer of RTV both sides of my gasket. This bolt goes into a water jacket, and that is a factory style bolt. I have actually thread taped it. Some people like a sealer. I normally roll with thread tape, and it works great for me. The other 3, 1, 2, 3, they don't go into any water jacket, so I did not thread tape them. But all these are currently nice and loose and free, but they are holding the cover up for now. I put a little anti-seize around on my snout. And if you look through, I got my oil slinger inside there. I've got red grease on my snout itself outside, a little more anti-seize on the inside of that. So I'll get her just hung onto here. If I can miss my installer, hopefully. There it goes. So start it up nice and straight. Now I'll get my installer tool. This is just a little Harbor Freight kit, but it works pretty nicely. There we go. And here's the centering chuck itself. So it just has a little piece, threads into your crank snout. Smooth as silk. You can hold here and tighten that. Has a little bearing there that slips. I believe this would be the proper way of doing this. If you didn't have that, an old block of wood and a hammer. I've seen it happen before, worked just fine, but this is the safer, more proper way. Get that stuff installed. Go ahead and tighten up my bolts then. They don't need to be cranked down or anything like that. All they're doing is just compressing a gasket. So I went ahead and got my front bolt in, torqued down. Shot a little paint on those bolt heads. I can't stand for them to be in different color. And I may come back and touch up a little more later. But what I need to do now is get her flipped over. And it's pretty well balanced. I can probably do it with one hand. If I go ahead and put the heads on right now, it is a lot more top heavy. I like to go ahead and finish up my bottom end stuff. Do our windage tray, oil pump, and pan on the bottom. So y'all check that out. Before I actually put that stuff on, I've got my Lucas 50/50 mix over here. And I'm going to coat that timing chain straight through here. Really get it soaked. Roll the engine over a little bit. This stuff is so thick that, and remember, this is not the actual pure synthetic kind. I just saved that bottle. But it's the standard Lucas 50% and 50% oil. So that chain will be plenty lubed itself. Some people soak their chains, all that's fine. I could also go through, I've turned it on the side before and try to hit through here some, but right now it's just easier to go ahead and do it there. You can see how close our balancer is here. I'd call that probably, I don't know, 1/8 inch or so, maybe a little bit less. The installer is kind of the nice way to go about it. So, but yeah, I'll get that lubed up. So here's another question I get a lot. I like the oil pump gasket. I use it, I spray a light coat of copper coat on both sides, and I put it in place. If I can figure out which way it goes again. Dirty there, that's it. Just like that. My sealant's just a little bit tacky, but not too much. The oil pump bolts are special bolts. They are the perfect length, and I like to clean them and reuse them. So if I can get her set down on here again, I've test fit this once. Get a bolt started, there we go. 2 bolts started. And then it just kind of sets on down into place. I like to get my bolt started so I know my gasket's still straight. And if I wanted to look, I can look straight down and verify there. All that looks nice. There we are. And I'll torque the oil pump up to 35 foot-pounds. There we go. I also like to look. Get way on down here and look. See how it, once that torques up, that little bit of play right there comes out. So we're more worried about the flatness of the flange versus being seated on the other side. I had a little dent in my oil pan. I knocked it out from the inside, re-wiped it back out. It didn't even move the paint at all, the pan. But man, we've got a really nice fit now. There's no rock at all to this. Hopefully you can see that. Nothing. I look at my gap around here, it looks really good. I think it's gonna seal up nice. I like to check back here as well. You see there's probably, I don't know, 1/8 inch on that side, 1/8 inch here. It gets tight here. That big rubber seal does its job for the most part. I just noticed this, I think this crank has a pilot bushing in it. I'll get that out of there before we try to put it in. But yeah, looks really good. I'm gonna pop our pan off here. All right, pan off. Here's our windage tray. I'll slip in here. There we go. It's pretty basic install on that. And best I can tell, it did clear the pan fine. I'm gonna go ahead and get my 4 bolts in and just snug them down. Lower my pan down on here. And if it needs to move a little bit, one way or the other, I'll allow it to. I'll lift the pan straight off. This stays in place. I can go ahead and torque it down. I'll have to look up the torque on that. I bet it's only 15 foot-pounds or something, so really not very much. Those are very small, I think, probably 1/4 inch bolts. So there they are. I may put a little dab of Loctite on them, make me feel better. But it's nice and clear of the crank. All that looks great in there. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, but we're coming together. Something I think worth mentioning, this is a Engine Pro engine gasket kit set that I got from Ed. There's our part number if you want to see it. Something that I like about it, that kind of with Felpro stuff, the last few I've seen, this rear seal right here, it tucks nicely. It has little ears. Most of y'all know that. Our little ears tuck nicely into the block. And then both sides. The seal itself is not aggressively protruding out of the top of this cap. I've seen Felpro ones before, brand new, that I got from O'Reilly's or something, and they were just big and sloppy, hanging out when you put your pan on. It's trying to shove out over here, pull the ear out and whatever. This is probably the tightest I've ever seen, so I dig that. I'm gonna go ahead and actually, I got a little bit of RTV in there I need to dig out. From whenever I put that cap on, you can kind of see it gray down in there. I like to put a little fine line along the edge of my cap, so when I torque it down, it squishes out. And that way there'll never be any oil somehow strangely seep through there. You can call me crazy or call me whatever you want to, but I'm gonna get that dug out before I reseal this thing and get my oil pan put on. My front seal, it's just like normal. It's got the two big tit, little tit, big tit, little tit. So here we go and here we go. I actually like to put a little sealant underneath that before I shove her in. So I'm getting close to putting heads on, and I got my gaskets down. I always like to check the distance of that bore there. The ring, be sure it's plenty far away from the edge of that. It's not gonna hang over. I got a head gasket video about that. That's probably less of an issue with this model block. Not like the old big blocks that had that giant chamfer. But anyway, something to check. I did go ahead and drop my heads down on here. Be sure they wouldn't hang on a dowel pin or something strange without a gasket. And these gaskets are dummy proof because one dowel pin's here and one's here. I usually like to put the, whatever you call that space in the gasket, towards the block. And it is on this side. So I don't think it actually matters because it's just metal and metal. It's all cast iron. Everything looks good with these. My oil holes are big and wide open. Looks nice. It has that kind of, here you go, like that print seal on these gaskets, I think you call that. I haven't talked to you about our heads very much. Check out Ed's machine. He's got 3 or 4 videos on these, doing his valve job and stuff, resurfaced. You can kind of see the super fine, nice finish on that from his Comex machine. These are 308 casting. You can see that number there. So we lucked out with these on this engine. Something else that made me think this was a crate engine of some kind. These heads, these are 202 valves in the 360 head. Also, it did not have the goofy exhaust rotators on here anywhere. See here? So it kind of came with that nicer hardware. Ed was able to shim our springs up so they'll be nice to fit our cam. It's got the big holes here for push rods, which we don't actually need because of the, we're not running a roller cam right now. But everything looks good. Ports look nice. They're basically stock size still. There's no need in porting these out great big for this engine. But they're a really nice set of heads now with a really nice valve job. So sometimes I soak my timing chains. Other times I just lube them after the fact. I did a quick short on this the other day, but you can see that hole right there leads straight to the chain itself. So I just took my Lucas 50/50 mix, which this is, again, not the synthetic kind. It's just in the bottle. Stick it in the hole and squeeze. Oil hits it, all's good. We take our wrench and just turn the engine over. I can actually show you as I do it here. Squeeze and rotate. There's lots and lots of lube on that chain as you go around. Back on our engine build here, I got our push rods in, lifters installed, and they all spin nice and freely. I see lots of lube on there. I've got a separate video showing kind of my method for madness on flat tappet cam stuff, so I'll try to get a link to that somewhere in here. If this is out before that, I'll add the link later. So I got to get our rocker arms put together. I have cleaned, actually hand cleaned and inspected all of them. I just cleaned them in my parts washer here with solution, and I mean, they look brand new basically. They have been ran before. You can see a kind of the wear patch here on the ends, but all my wear patches look really nice. They're pretty small, concise, where they were just rubbing the valve stem. No dig ins or anything like that. Let me flip. Here's where I always look for the most wear. So get my little pick through here. See that shiny part right there and there? Usually if that's worn all the way across, I throw them away and buy some new ones. These look really nice. I mean, you can see it just was real concentrated there. Really good stuff. I think this one may be my widest, and it goes to about here, but all these look nice. I'm not scared of that at all. Doesn't have a sloppy fit or an oval hole, you know. So the holes basically come somewhat oval to start with anyway, but these look really good. I haven't paired them off yet. You can see it says right hand, left hand. So I'll get them paired up, put on my shafts. Here's my stock bolts that are all nice and cleaned up. If I can reuse the stock hardware, I try to, because it's just good stuff. This is not a high lift cam by any means, anything like that. So I'll get my shafts over here, get them paired up. So of course, you know I like to prime my oil system. And I've done that. I had to, remember, spin the engine over a few times so it would get oil up to these rockers and oils up to those rockers. And I just got my gauges kind of loosely laying here, but you'll see when I spin this, it is clockwise for a small block. See, it's starting to rush. I'm not trying to flood the floor out again. There we are. If I can leave that alone. Anyway, you see our oil dripping down here real nice. I did that to both sides, but remember, I turned that engine over. I have not put my intake on yet. And look how much cam lube is left on these lobes. So I believe what I'm going to do now, while I can still see my cam and see my balancer, I'm gonna get it up top dead center, drop my distributor gear in, and then it'll be ready to be timed from that. So I won't have to spin it over later or do any of that business. I'll already have it on top dead center. And I will take my acid brush, just like that. I could even steal some of this lube off here, you see, and re-wipe my lobes with some more Ishki Red lube, just as a precaution, because if this had been spun over 20 times, all that lube would be totally gone. But right now, I mean, that lobe is literally dry, and this has been primed. So just something to think about. Well, here's our 360 all buttoned up. Had to order a new water pump because the other one was some kind of remanufactured job, and it actually hit that bolt right there whenever you bolted it on. So I got a new one coming. I didn't trust any of that business. We went with the Torker 2 intake, Torker 2 340, mostly because the AC compressor sets right here. I have a RPM air gap, but the thermostat housing is very centered, and it would totally disrupt that. So this would be really nice. I think the RPM range, they say 2,500 to 6,500. I believe it to be a little bit lower, but that's fine. The cam works, says 2 to 6,000. We got a light stall speed coming from Mr. Mike Iben at Top Line Converter. It's basically made up perfect for the Ramcharger, the camshaft, and this 360 engine. So I think she's pretty nice. Turned out nice. Heads look really good. These are the original valve covers that came on this engine, because I still believe it was a crate engine. So anyway, I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll catch you next time.